Bonjour, je suis Nicolas Houle, directeur de la programmation au Palais Montcalm et je suis très heureux aujourd'hui de m'entretenir avec les Barr Brothers, Andrew et Brad Barr, qui seront au Palais Montcalm le 21 novembre prochain pour revoir leur album Sleeping Operator. Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, good. Salut, Nicolas.
Hey, tell me, first of all, the pandemic brings some, the artists in some unusual places. How is it for you to revisit those songs, especially in this period of time?
Well, we don't know yet. After the show, we'll certainly have a better idea of that. We did do some what we call the album shows, where we performed our first record, our second record, our third record on 3 consecutive nights. And I can say that Sleeping Operator was really the most dynamic, had the most range, and was the longest. With a lot of music on that record. But all the songs have really had a place and were super fun to revisit then. I'm just hoping it'll, I
think during the pandemic, there's a lot of time spent trying to make sense of the world that we now live in and where we're going to go from here. And when we try to write, that is there, in our presence in the back of our mind. It's just what you do when you're trying to be creative, is take everything that's going on. And so it is kind of, in a way, a relief to revisit something from a different time, and maybe it'll remind us of a feeling that we had that we want to hold on to a little bit, or maybe it'll seem framed in a new light. We haven't done it yet, and we haven't played a concert since COVID hit. So I'm really looking forward to it. And when we got invited to play Palais Montcalm, personally, I just got excited to set up in such a gorgeous sounding room and play music. I thought, even if there was no, web show, this would be a great thing to do, to just set up in such a beautiful space. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm just going to add that when writing songs, I try and keep a certain amount ambiguous and open-ended, so that the lyrics can be applied to a lot of situations. And I'm curious to see what spots of which songs are going to feel relevant in a new way with everything we've gone through. Sometimes a lyric, I'll sing it, and it'll surprise me how it's in a new light.
I see. Tell me, back then you recorded something like 40 songs, I think, and in the end you kept 13 of those. What happened to those tracks? Will you honor some of those, or are they just not up to Barr Brothers standards?
They all went on the new Patrick Watson record.
We put out an EP about a year after Sleeping Operator. I think that had 5 of the songs on it. Yeah. Did anything make it on Queens of the Breakers?
You'd Have to Lose Your Mind.
Was that from Sleeping Operator?
Well,
so yeah, I guess a song or two made it on the last record. We've been playing with some songs from that era.
Decibel Man, Sometimes There's One, I Know.
They probably will all see the light of day, slowly. Maybe not those recordings, but those songs. You kind of keep them around, and on a rainy day, you pick away at it, see what it was that didn't add up, to want to release it, and maybe work on it.
And sometimes it's not necessarily that it didn't make it to our standards. It's just that the balance of the record, needed them to be held off. That you don't really realize that until you all see them all together and trying to fit them in place. And then it's like, well, everything makes sense if you take this song out and this song out. So as Andrew said, we are thinking of ways to get those songs out to people, and with any luck, actually, we'll have something, a platform to release them to people.
Good. And now for this show, do you want to stick to the original arrangements, or you wish to bring those songs somewhere else?
I think we'll probably change it up a little bit, just because there was a lot of work done in the studio on that record, a lot of overdubbing and horn sections, and so where we had put, say, horns, now we'll find a way for the pedal steel to play it, but there probably won't be any drastically different arrangements. They'll all be pretty recognizable. We're not going to go Bob Dylan Rolling Thunder review on Sleeping Operator yet.
We don't know that. We haven't rehearsed yet. We've got our first rehearsals next week, so it's sort of anyone's guess. Any of those songs are up for grabs, up for reimagining, and I'm sure that will happen. I'll bet some of the songs do get some kind of a new environment, sonic environment, and some of them will probably just be as is. But we're always kind of improvising within a song. Like the way we write parts it's to be performed in a moment by who is ever performing them, and not to be stuck, adhered to like a grid.
Okay.
You just gave me some ideas. The whole time he was talking, I was just thinking of all the songs and how they could be played differently. I don't even know what he just said.
Well, how would you say that those songs evolved through the years, especially since there's been some changes in the band in this last few years?
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably the songs that album's probably the most represented in our live show. At least.
Yeah, but on the last tour we played mostly
Queens of the
Breakers. But a song like Half Crazy, I think when we recorded that song, it was about a 15 or 20 minute jam in the studio. And then for the record, we made it more concise. But now when we play it live, we've gone back to really extending it. So that one goes on for a long time.
You just learn things, new little spots in songs. Like, was the Heartbreak Down on Come in the Water? Was that on the record?
Nope, that's new. Yeah, places for people to take some solos. The bass player takes a solo now on a song, and the harpist takes a solo. And we found some songs from that record that we could sing around one microphone, which has become a really fun part of the show. We try to just give each song its own little world, and sometimes the show, needs a certain thing, and a song can grow to be that. If the show needs a dip, there's some songs on that record that have the ability to remain pretty subtle, or they can also be pretty large. It's got a lot of wiggle room, that record.
But the songs have definitely evolved in ways, as a kind of like looking at a kid grow up. You forget sometimes that the way they started was so naive and such a kind of germ of an idea. It's really cool to look at the way, how far they've come, and to look at what they started as. But yeah, I imagine that anyone who hasn't seen us in years that just knows that record will probably be pretty surprised by the growth of a lot of those songs.
Good. Tell me, you're not the first band which have, band members from the same family, and you will not be the last, but tell me about the kind of special connection that it brings to the musical adventure.
Well, there's a lot that goes unspoken.
He can't quit.
Under contract. I'd say mostly it's the amount that goes unspoken from playing in other contexts and other groups, throughout my career. I think with Brad, we rarely have to, really dissect what we're doing. It usually just kind of comes out, and it's pretty natural. The rhythmic phrasing is, very in tune, and that can be a tricky thing to navigate at first with other musicians. Sometimes is finding where that rhythmic phrasing is, and the sensibilities. We both, listen to almost all of the same music. We have, different tastes, but we at least know the references, so we can, move pretty quickly.
And personally, personality-wise, I think our relationship tends to inform a lot of the band dynamic, for better or for worse. It's just kind of a given that anyone who's in the band with us is going to feel like family. That's the way it just sort of has to be, and that's just the way it is. That whoever's on the road with us, they're gonna be someone that we love and that we have this, a strong friendship with, just because that's what we know. That's what playing music has been, is you play music with people you love, and it spills over. At the same time, there's also, the I don't know, silly patterns we get into of passive aggressiveness or just, we'll be able to snap at each other and then move on quickly. There's like a grudge. We don't hold grudges. And I think that's kind of key. I'd like to think that we don't snap at our bandmates and our friends either, but if
it's important that everybody in the band can speak their mind, and if you need to tell somebody to bug off, you can, or if you're going through something, you don't feel like you're isolated. It is, to treat it like a family is very important.
Good. Tell me that, of course, there is several things that really defines your music, but there is some kind of trademarks too. Brad, when you're playing with this loose string through your strings, or Andrew, with those percussion, this kind of, world vibe that you can bring to the music. Are you conscious of that? And do you try, to, how can I say, sometimes you want to put some over some songs, and then on others you say, no, we should not do this too much, not being kind of labeled as Barr Brothers. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do understand that question.
It always comes down, I think, to serving the song. Like, the song usually comes first, and then we get to color it with all these different, things, different sounds and different ways of playing instruments. But, it's important that it never feels like a gimmick, or like, oh, this song needs this, it's not interesting enough. It needs me to bang on a metal pipe with a hammer and then it'll become interesting. It's the other way around. If we hear something, we just have so many instruments at our disposal that if we hear something, usually it might not be that you hear the sound of a Hammond B3 organ. You might hear something else, and how do you get that? Well, maybe it's tying a string to a harp and running it through a Leslie speaker, and then finding that sound in your head. I think that's what we're always kind of trying to do, is find the thing we hear and not just rely on, the keyboard. You can walk in to Steve's music and hit setting number 1 and it's there. That can be great too for some people, but I think we definitely search hard for our sounds.
Nice pump for Steve's music. Good job. Now we can get that symbol you want. I was going to say also that happily, I think we're not as conscious of those sort of trademark things. hearing you say it's like, oh yeah, that's the thing I do, and I always make sure I got the string. But I think we've remained a bit oblivious to that. I tend to feel the opposite, that it's a struggle for me to actually feel like I'm creating an identifiable sound. Maybe just because I've got all the sounds of my, heroes and the things I aspire towards, that it's sometimes difficult to see your own thing. So I'm probably less conscious of it than other people. And I think that is probably where I should be anyway. I think if I were to be more conscious of it, probably start running into problems.
Good. So this album, the Sleeping Operator, there is a lot of different styles on this album, which is, a great way to explore those different aspects. Is it something you want to keep? In last conversation, Brad, you told me that, also on Queen of the Breakers, there is a lot of different styles. And you told me that for the next album, you want to be more precise, and that Andrew said, well, we have to be more quick. So is it, where are you going now? Is it or you're still working on something, the way you've worked so far, and finally have, all those different colors in your music?
Glad you asked that question. It's because it's sort of reaffirming that we are doing what we said we were going to do. That's kind of where we're at right now in the stuff we're working on now. We've given ourselves, I've given myself a sort of limitation, trying to keep it down to just this one instrument that I've been playing a lot, just this little Mexican guitar, trying to limit my songwriting, what I can play, to just that guy. And I think it's getting me personally to the kind of recording, the kind of album making that I think I would like to be a part of this time. I'd like our experience to be a little more concise, a little simpler. Just even if it's just to do it, make a record that has that kind of focus and limitation. And by limitation, I just mean not feel like everything is at your disposal, but really feeling like if I have this one thing, just keeps you focused. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And we've got about a dozen songs, on the slab that are all we're looking at through that angle.
Good. And do you have any idea when it will be ready?
We can't say yet because we don't know.
I think Sleeping Operator, I think I had thought it was done like a year before it was done. Or maybe that was Queens of the Breakers, I don't know. But usually I'm pretty happy when an album gets in the ballpark. Andrew is good at seeing what could be better about something.
I'm like the fine finishing guy at the
car wash.
Well, I was thinking more carpentry, but sure, car wash. I'll take it.
So yeah, I'd love to say, either late spring or early fall of 2021 would be like a realistic expectation, but we'll see. We haven't left this room since March, so I don't know what the outside world is like these days. People still make records?
Yes, they do.
People listen to records?
Yes, I think so.
All right.
So, all right. Well, hey guys, I thank you very much. That was really interesting. And Can't wait to see you back at Palais Montcalm on November 21st.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Pleasure talking with you, Nicolas. Thank you so much for having us and doing this.